Marlon Wayans comedy special, God Loves Me, is available now on HBO and also premiered in March of 2023. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it because the entire theme of the special has to do with the singular incident of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. But before I give my little recap and review of it, I just want to take a step back and highlight some of Marlon's and the Wayans family in general, some of their accomplishments for any youngins who may be listening to this right now. So first off, Marlon comes from a comedic and entertainment family. My first insights into them, although I was young, it's probably like around 9, 10, actually maybe even a little younger. No, that sounds about right. Around 9, 10 years old was the sketch comedy show In Living Color, which Marlon's older brother, Keenan Wayans, created. And like a bunch of the family was on that show. Keenan hosted it and again created it. And it ran from 1990 to 1994 on Fox. So think like a Mad TV or like an SNL even, but like really funny, and launched the careers of some comedic heavyweights. So I'm going to name a few. You got Keenan Ivory Wayans, obviously, David Allen Greer, Tommy Davidson, Kelly Cofield Park, Jim Carrey. Yes, that Jim Carrey. Shout out to Fire Marshal Bill. Oh, my favorite character that I still remember is like he played like a female bodybuilder chick or something like that. It was fucking hilarious. But he had Kim Wayans, which is one of the Wayans sisters, Shawn Wayans, Jamie Foxx. Yes, that Jamie Foxx. Damon Wayans, which, side note on Damon Wayans, I was recently having this conversation. He has a show now that's like ran for like mad seasons. I think like My Wife and Kids or something like that. But he's like a comic. And like a lot of the greats, like Dave Chappelle's, Bill Burr's, all reference him as such. And always say that he's definitely like, if it's what he only did instead of, had gone the acting route, they'd definitely be a GOAT. But that even to this day though, as he tours, he video records all of his sets. And now that's something that a lot of like the better comics do, not necessarily video recording. And this might be a little like inside baseball in the comedy world or whatever, but I love behind the scenes type shit. So I listen for these types of things closely to see what I can adapt to like my own, podcasting or writing, etc. A lot of the top tier comics, what they do is audio record their sets and then they listen to them over again and like see which bits landed, which ones didn't, what they can tweak, and pick up on things that in the moment you're not gonna necessarily remember. Now, Damon Wayans was doing this, but video recording, and has done so since like the 80s and 90s when he first started doing stand-up. And he told Rogan, which I heard reference this, that he has like VHS tapes and like all that. He has every single set that he's ever done video recorded, which I thought was pretty dope. But anyway, circling back to In Living Color, they also had the Fly Girls, which was like this group of cheerleader type girls that would dance and do choreographed. I don't think they sang, but just like choreographed dancing, like between sets and bits, and like to introduce the show and exit the show. The choreographer of the Fly Girls is Rosie Perez. Yes, that Rosie Perez. And of the most popular of the Fly Girls has gone off to have a bit of a career of her own was Jennifer Lopez, aka J-Lo. So yeah, In Living Color was the shit. And so of these like, more known Wayans and like the older siblings that started in the entertainment business, you have Keenan, Damon, Kim Wayans, Shawn Wayans, and Marlon Wayans is like the youngest of like that generation of Wayans. Then you have like some of their kids, which is Damian Wayans and Damon Wayans Jr. And they each have their like respective careers, like just outside of obviously In Living Color and stand-up comedy. But circling back to Marlon, which is in scope here, you have the Wayans brothers, which was an iconic sitcom. Used to love watching that show. Even now, sometimes like catch reruns and shit. And a bunch of movies like White Chicks. And he played Loke Dog and Don't Be a Menace. To South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood, which was a spoof of Menace to Society. Naked, which was a Netflix movie that was pretty good. He did the Haunted House movies, which was like a spoof on like Scream or like one of those like scary movies, or of Scary Movie actually, I think it was. Then more like serious roles, smaller but more serious roles like in Heat, or The Heat rather. Oh, you know what? I'm actually am thinking of Scary Movie, which is a spoof of the Scream movies. So there's a Scary Movie 1, Scary Movie 2, etc., etc., etc. So first off, round of applause for Marlon on all that good stuff, and to the Wayans family. I went to see Marlon live at Caroline's on Broadway, which has since announced that they were closing down, and I think they may have already. I don't remember if it was earlier this year or that they announced earlier this year that they were closing down this year. But it's an iconic venue here in New York, and I saw a couple comics there. I saw Russell Peters there, Marlon there, and I think there was another one, but I don't remember who it was. But anyway, I remember seeing Marlon there, and we went off of, my wife and I went off of, it's Marlon, we like Wayans Brothers, we like his movies. My wife loves fucking white chicks. It's like one of her favorite movies. And I had heard him promoting that he was starting to do stand-up or like getting back into stand-up, because he did try it like many years before, like acting like really kicked off. I was like, all right, fuck it, something cool to do. And there's this thing within the comedy world where, you'll have like big name or celebrities that have a name try stand-up, and some of them might even like do a tour and stuff like that, but they're not really funny and they're pretty much getting by on their name. But there's this thing which I really appreciate within the craft of comedy, that is that you probably get 3 to 5 minutes like as a courtesy from the audience, and like just for that, your name, the awe of being in the presence of a famous person or celebrity to like wear off. But then after that, like you have to be funny. If not, like it's not a sustainable thing, and the crowd will let you know it, your ticket sales will let you know it, etc. So I went into it with that in mind. And the thing about Marlon is that he is so naturally funny and gifted in his like ability to do like a lot of muecas and physical comedy and facial expressions and stuff like that, that even though I didn't think like his set was like anything great, or the, in terms of being like a really good stand-up comic that has put his, 10 plus years in stand-up comedy itself, etc. Even though I didn't get that from him, his all those other like intangibles were enough to make it enjoyable, like it wasn't a wasted my money type of experience when I saw him at Caroline's. And that even led me to see like one of his other stand-up specials, which I thought was okay, but again, not great, because comedy is not something you can necessarily fake, but it was decent. And then this latest special, God Loves Me, I again had heard him promoting it on Breakfast Club, and my brother hit me up saying that it was actually really funny, and he's a tough critic, and it really, really fucking was. It was hilarious. And what stood out most to me is that it showed that he, in my opinion, and again, I have no way of verifying this, but to me, it showed that he has been grinding within the stand-up comedy itself and like putting the hours in, because I saw a lot of growth from his last special that he put out to this one, and definitely way more growth from when I saw him years ago at Caroline's to this special. It was really like technically good. He had a lot of callbacks in it. He sprinkled in, again, his physical comedy abilities, callbacks to roles in previous movies like White Chicks, like Don't Be a Menace. And it was tougher, in my opinion, because he had a singular theme of speaking about the Will Smith slap of Chris Rock. That was the entire theme of his set. So all the funny and all the everything had to fit within that myopic frame, which to me must be harder to do. But it's great because he has an interesting perspective in knowing them, knowing Jada, knowing Will, knowing Chris, and knowing them all at a very young age when they were all like coming up. I think he said he knew Chris Rock from when he was like 11, 12 years old. Then Jada and Will, he knew them from when he was like 18, 19 years old. And he has relationships with all three. But what was great is that he didn't pick a side, although at first, like it seems like he is. He's like shitting all over Chris Rock. But what was dope is that he went really hard at all three of them and highlighted warts and all the faults and pitfalls that each of them have, where they could have or should have done better in his opinion. And then he did a good job of doing that while like building them back up at the same time as well. Shat on them, built them back up, shat on them, built them back up, told some personal anecdotal stories. And it was, again, just really good, really funny, and definitely a special that I recommend you guys checking out. You get to see somebody else's perspective that's not Will's, that's not Chris's. So it's more in line with like an, external, like us looking in on the situation type of perspective, but with someone that also happens to know each of them intimately enough that he could shit on them and let them know, hey, yo, you fucked up in this, you didn't fuck up in that, etc., etc. So definitely something that I appreciated. And that is Marlon Wayans' latest comedy special, God Loves Me, streaming now on HBO.